Good morning. Please be seated. We've started this wonderful tradition of Youth Take on Sundays. When it first started, it was going to be called Youth Takeover Sunday. And although I do like the imagery of that sometimes, Ada, I think it was, that felt it was appropriate to call it Youth Take On. Because we are not reappropriating the church. We are not taking it away from somebody else. We are, hopefully, taking it on and making it grow into something amazing. On You Take On Sundays, I like to offer the opportunity for students to be up here and reflect on the gospel. So today, we have for you Nicholas Correnti.
At my school, we have an unwritten system where in order to give something, you have to get something in return. Or, if someone does something to you that you don't like, you do it back. For example, sometimes in PE last year, someone would decide to pick a fight or say something mean to someone on the other team. And then, that other person would say something mean back, just to make themselves look better. The major problem is that there is no resolution to a conflict because there is no forgiveness. They just want to get back at each other. Also, people don't want to give if they don't receive back. In speech and debate, people often will say, "I'll only show you my speech unless you show me your speech." Or sometimes after school, we will go and get something to eat nearby, and someone will loan someone $1 or $2. Instead of just willingly giving them $1, they'll make them promise to pay them back, and then hold the fact that they owe them $1 over their heads for a very long time. This isn't very nice. Even though this happens all the time, there are some instances where a student will give to another without expecting things back. When I was at a cross-country race last semester, they were selling burgers for a couple of dollars. I forgot to bring money, of course, and my friend asked me if I wanted one. I said yes. I said I would pay him back. However, he told me that I didn't have to. He had enough to spare for another person. I did end up making him take the money back a few days later, but I had really appreciated what he did for me. It was one small act that showed me that he was willing to give me because he already had enough, and without holding debt over my head. I think that if these small acts where one can let go of things and try to be caring instead of getting back can happen all the time, the world around us could be a lot better. However, these actions don't just happen on a small scale, but can also be seen on a much larger scale. We celebrated Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday about 2 weeks ago. His actions were on a national scale and reflected around the world. Martin Luther King Jr. hungered and thirsted for righteousness. He wanted to seek out what was right for our country, and that was making everyone equal. He stood up for his beliefs, and even though he was persecuted for it, his hunger for goodness in America was filled. He was blessed, and his work inspired many people across the country. And in the end, despite his assassination, his goals were achieved. Overall, in this passage, Jesus was spreading the word of God, which was to be more caring and compassionate for one another, and not just focus on ourselves. In the moment, things may not look good for you, and you may face opposition, but in the end, you will have God's favor. If we can live like this, then the whole world will be a better place. It will be a place where people do not have to seek revenge, and everyone can be respected. This passage makes me hopeful for my future because it gives me something to reference to. When I volunteered to be a greeter at the MLK service 2 weeks ago, the Most Reverend Michael Curry, who was doing the sermon, kept saying, "When heading into an uncertain future, look back to the rock." You have to look back in order to move forward. But I honestly didn't know what to look back to. But now, after reading this, I do have something to look back to when the future is uncertain. Looking back to this passage can improve all of our lives and help us become better people. All it takes is one person to read it and truly use it in their lives at a time, and the people of the world will be more caring and less self-centered. It can provide hope to people who want to make a difference but are in fear of what others will think or say.
All right, now my turn. So I got some distressing news a couple weeks ago. Somebody informed me that I am, in fact, a millennial, which was disturbing. I immediately threw down my expensive, organic, fair trade coffee, micro-roasted coffee down on the floor. It was just pure disgust. I think I felt that way because we millennials, tend to get a bad rap sometimes. I think that sometimes we're perceived as lazy and entitled, and maybe that is partially true. Lots of stuff, in my life especially, there's never been huge, great conflict. There's never been a war that I've been a part of. That's lots of stuff has blissfully so come easily for me. I think sometimes this happens with church too, and I kind of get frustrated with youth ministry every now and again. My frustrations are shared by other youth ministers I know, and for a long time it was like, what new crazy program can we do? What new way can we celebrate Mass? Can we, put DJ Cannon, Phil Smith, up here with turntables instead of an organ? And maybe that will bring all of our students back. I'm sure he's ready on the ones and twos. He's fine. Right? We try so hard to reinvent. We try so hard to do new things. And stuff just doesn't work sometimes. And I think the frustration with a lot of youth workers is that it's like maybe just kids aren't interested. Maybe this place, this church isn't relevant anymore, which isn't true. I think this gospel kind of hit me this week. I shared in my reflection that I wrote at the beginning of the week about a woman, Sister Lydia Schneider, who transformed these words of the Beatitudes for me from just simple words on a page to action. The simple words that I had to memorize when I was, 6, 7 years old. If I memorized them quickly enough, I got an extra Capri Sun, which was a big deal. When I was an adult, I witnessed this woman thirsting and hunger for righteousness. I witnessed a woman uplifting those who mourn. I witnessed a woman who was so passionate and God-filled, I was inspired to continue. So I think these words in this passage here are one beautiful call to action for our students. You guys sitting on the chancel over there. You guys have responsibility to take these words and be the peacemakers in this world. To hunger and thirst for righteousness. This is your job. And it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy at all. But the good news is that the congregation here is here to help you. Our adults are here to show us the way. Bishop Michael Curry said that look to the rock from which we are hewn. And for our students here, for our community, this is part of the rock in which they're hewn. And so we always look to you. So what I'm asking for our adults, our grandparents, our parents, anybody here, to help us, to guide us. I know sometimes we don't listen very well. I know that. But we are in need of guidance, and we are in need of to be welcomed to this place. It takes a lot of wisdom for a church to allow us to do something like a youth take-on. And I think that this place is wonderful like that, and I want us to keep going. And for you students, make sure to listen to these wonderful people around us that are showing you how to be these things in the beginning.